Hi, this video is sponsored by my dear friend Shannon Best, owner of Best Gift Baskets, servicing the Windsor and Essex County area. Shannon's information will be in the description below. Now, I've been asked by quite a few people to actually post a speech that I made at a fundraiser a couple of months ago. It was called Celebrating Survival and the Mentors Who Guide and Teach Us. And I talked about my mentor, Mr. Walton Lewis, and I wanted to read that speech for you today so that you can have it on hand. Back in 1976, after being kidnapped and brutally gang raped in Detroit, I was honored to meet a very special individual whose mentorship at the time became pivotal in my healing and ability to move forward in my life. We spent much time together talking, and he shared some brilliant stories of courage and leadership. His name was Mr. Walton Lewis, and when he read about my story in the news, he became saddened when he heard that the assailants were all black. Mr. Lewis devoted his life to elevating society's perception of the black man. As a matter of fact, my best-selling book, The Queen's Daughter, is dedicated to Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis shared his life story with me, explaining how he was born a descendant of slaves. He talked about living during the time of the KKK and how he witnessed torture and killings in the streets. He explained how the black man was trained to live with anger inside without the opportunities to express it. He talked of his struggle to be accepted into society as a respected businessman and described many instances of racism that he was forced to endure. Mr. Lewis never met me for lunch on his own. He was always accompanied by another female. On occasion, Judy Diebold, journalist at the time with the Detroit Free Press, would join us, and almost always we had lunch with Mr. Lewis's public relations executive named Doris Decker. She was a tall, blonde, white woman with a strong stature. Mr. Lewis said, after talking about racism, "Just watch how they give Doris the check. They would never think that a black man could pay for two white ladies." And he was right. Sure enough, the bill was handed to Doris. I had mentioned during one of our conversations how I had lost faith in God. I couldn't understand why I had to experience such violence. So Mr. Lewis invited me to visit his church, a Baptist church in downtown Detroit called the Bethel Baptist Church. And over the years, I had the privilege of attending many times as his special guest. For the months following the rape, I was traumatized, so traumatized that I could not work and there were bills to be paid. Mr. Lewis started a trust fund that paid all of my expenses. He sent me for career counseling and eventually helped me find a job. At one point, I was so stressed out that he paid for me to fly to Miami Beach for a much-needed vacation retreat. The following are some of the profound lessons I learned from Mr. Lewis, who passed away in 1995, and why I consider him one of my most valuable mentors. Number 1, I learned that the color of your skin doesn't make a man. We must earn honor and respect and work hard to be successful. Number 2, set the example and inspire others by being successful. Number 3, when I asked him, "How can I repay you for what you have done for me?" he answered, "Help others when you have the opportunity. Pay it forward." Number 4, Mr. Lewis emphasized the importance of community service. Number 5, he stressed the value of courage, leadership, and education. And number 6, the most important lesson that he taught me. This was through his stories about racism that he often talked about. He told me, quote, "Never hide. Be proud of who you are and what you have gone through." And that is my motto, which you will often hear in my YouTube videos. My motto is, I won't hide, I survived, and you can do it too. Now, Mr. Lewis has a son named David Baker Lewis, who is a prominent attorney and partner in a law firm in Detroit. And I contacted Mr. Lewis to see if he could come to the fundraiser and maybe speak a little bit on his father's behalf. He was vacationing outside of the country, unfortunately, could not attend, but he did send me this letter that I would like to read to you, right now. This is from David Baker Lewis. Life itself is a struggle for survival. No one can survive alone. Yet in our respective struggles for survival, we cannot predict from whence the assistance for our own survival might come. Often that assistance comes from totally unexpected sources. Even through our individual differences that are frequently the center of attention, what has often been the wellspring of the survival assistance we receive from others is the bond of common decency we share as humans. It is this bond of common decency which connected my father, Walton Lewis, and Melissa McCormick in her time of need. Walton Lewis, born in 1910 in segregated Clearwater, Florida, had a legacy of common decency bequeathed to him through the love of his mother, Emma, and his stepfather, the Reverend Peyton M. Lewis, a minister in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. As many have, he lived by the religious and human principles instilled in him from an early age. His life journey encountered numerous instances where his survival was assisted by people he did not know well or at all. But he too benefited from the common decency of his fellow human beings. These instances fortified his instinct for and commitment to assist other human beings in need. When he learned of Melissa's crisis, his sense of common decency compelled him to act to assist her. An ordinary human being responding to another human being in extraordinary circumstances with an extraordinary need. No one can survive alone. Periodic celebrations of survival inspire us and others to nurture our own senses of common decency and honors those who have assisted us to survive life's long journey. Wonderful letter. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mentors are so important in a person's life. You can learn from so many people around you, whether it's your parents or a teacher or just, common friends. Mentors have been extremely important in my life, and I'm lucky enough to have a whole list of them that I acknowledge now and then. But Mr. Lewis, I will never forget the kindness that he showed me back in 1976. He is in my heart and always will be. Rest in peace, Mr. Lewis. Now, I actually offer a mentorship program, so if you'd like to hear a little bit more about it, you can go to my website, queensdaughter.com. Thank you again, Shannon Best, for sponsoring this video. Shannon is a wonderful friend who always supports social causes, in particular female feminism and causes related to social issues regarding females. Thank you so much, Shannon. Till the next time, thank you.